Hey, I'm Daniel from Fishdale's Fly Shop. I'm going to be tying the walking drake today. So this fly incorporates some of the knotted pheasant tail. I was lucky to get this when we still had this in the shop, but it's pretty easily made yourself. You can just take a crochet hook and knot some of the ends together and you'll get nice little legs that you can put onto your fly. This fly is great for calmer water, kind of on the flats, maybe for a finicky fish that has seen some of the more common dry flies. Has some CDC, so it's going to float well. It's not going to make too much of an impact when it hits the water, so great fly for maybe like calmer water, that sort of stuff. I tied this sort of in a green color to imitate a drake, but of course you can switch up the colors, make it look like anything else if you wanted to. Without any further talking, let's get into it. So I'm going to start with a TMCO all-purpose hook. I really like this hook. It's a nice light wire. It's barbless. I think it works well for this fly. Just going to get that inner vise and then start my thread here. For my thread, I'm going to be using some nano silk. It's become pretty much my favorite thread to tie now. Super strong, so it works pretty well. First material I'm going to tie in is a little bit of midge flash. It's going to just add a little bit of shine to the body and give it a little bit of a rib. Just get that started. And just wrap back nice towards the bend. On this hook I like to wrap back a little bit further than you normally would. I feel it looks much better. Like that. Next I'm going to use some of this Loon low tack wax, just so it's easier to get my dubbing on the thread. Just add a little bit of that on there. For the dubbing, I'm going to be using some Senyo's Fusion Dub in Emerald. It's a new color we got here in the shop, and really great color. Looks really nice on a lot of different flies. Just going to take a little bit of this stuff and dub it on. It's very important that you get this nice and tight. You don't want to have any sort of loose fibers that are really hard to deal with. So that, make sure you get that nice and tight on there. Start wrapping right from the back. Nice tight wraps, making that body pretty slim and thin. And then I'm going to stop just a little bit forward of the point of the hook there. So you get a nice tight body. Now I'm going to wrap some of this midge flash, sort of segmenting the dubbing. Helps if you sort of twist it up a little bit. It's going to make it much easier to wrap. 2, 3, 4 or 5 turns seems to be a good number. Take that, tie it off, and just cut the rest off right there. Okay, I'm going to be using a second dubbing. I'm going to be using some of this Trout Hunter CDC dub. This is going to help those legs splay out a little bit more and add a little bit more bugginess to the fly. So just a tiny pinch, nothing too crazy. Just a couple turns of that. Stroke everything up. Kind of get the fibers out with your fingers. That. Next, I'm going to take some of this knotted pheasant tail. Works great for legs. Looks really good. Gives the fly a nice profile in the water. Just going to add 2 on each side. So 1. That's one side there. And then the second two on the other side. Make sure they line up and that they're the same length. Add a few nice tight wraps. Make sure those are sitting good. Yeah, looks about right. Just cut off those tag ends there. Clean everything up. Alright, next I'm going to add some CDC feathers. These ones are also from Trout Hunter. I'm only going to use 2 of these. These are pretty fluffy, so 2 should be enough. I'm going to make these probably a little bit longer than the body, and then tie them with the tips forward. That looks about right. Take a few wraps, make sure it's all good. And then I like to do a few wraps in front just to prop them up a little bit. Make sure they have a nice display. That'll help it sit better in the water. Then these other ends, I'm going to trim them off, but leave a little bit. So I'm not cutting them all the way down to the very base. There we go. And then the last material, I'm going to be adding a little bit of hackle. You can play around with different shades, different colors. We got quite a few packages here in the shop, so you can come in and pick through, and you can definitely play around with different hackles, different sizes, different colors. So I'm just going to tie that in all the way to the back, and then just jump my thread in front of that CDC. I'm just going to do some touching wraps back to the CDC here up front. Once I've filled that in, just jump it in front, and then give it a few wraps to tie it off. Make sure it's nice and tight. There we go. Make sure you're not trapping any fibers. You want to have a nice wrapped hackle. Just orientate those legs nice, nice fit good. And we're almost finished. Just gonna whip finish here. 4 or 5 turns is usually fine. And then just pull back, make sure it's nice and tight. Looks good. I'm just gonna snip off this thread. So you can snip the hackle on the bottom of these flies. It'll sit much lower in the water. So you can just sort of take those fibers out. Grab some. That gives it kind of a nice profile from the bottom. Makes it sit nice and flat in the water there. And there we go. That's the walking drake.